The Holy Gospel according to Luke.
Glory to you, O Lord.
Then Jesus told them a parable about their need to pray always and not to lose heart. He said, "In a certain city there was a judge who neither feared God nor had respect for people. In that city there was a widow who kept coming to him and saying, 'Grant me justice against my opponent.' For a while he refused, but later he said to himself, 'Though I have no fear of God and no respect for anyone, yet because this widow keeps bothering me, I will grant her justice so that she may not wear me out by continually coming.' And the Lord said, 'Listen to what the unjust judge says. And will not God grant justice to his chosen ones who cry to him day and night? Will he delay long in helping them? I tell you, he will quickly grant justice to them. And yet, when the Son of Man comes, will he find faith on earth?'" The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, O Christ.
This morning, I'm actually focusing on our psalmody. And to provide a different perspective, I'm going to read the version that is in the Voice Bible. "I look up at the vast size of the mountains. From where will my help come in times of trouble? The eternal creator of heaven and earth and these mountains will send the help I need. He holds you firmly in place. He will not let you fall. He who keeps you will never take his eyes off you and never drift off to sleep. What a relief! The one who watches over Israel never leaves for rest or sleep. The Eternal keeps you safe, so close to him that his shadow is cooling shade to you. Neither bright light of sun nor dim light of moon will harm you. The Eternal will keep you safe from all life's evils, from the first breath to the last breath you breathe, from this day and forever." Psalms are Hebrew poems that were set to music and used by the Israelites for worship, prayer, and expressing their emotions. Throughout many of them is a common thread that helps us to find hope in the midst of difficulty. Christian hope is not a longing or a yearning for God to help. It is not waiting for the slim chance that things may get better. Genuine hope is the confidence that God is in your life and on your side, now and forever, and that nothing can separate you from God's love. Bob Safford. When Jesus said, "The kingdom of God is near," people interpreted that to mean that the end of the world was close at hand. Today, despite the passage of over 2,000 years, that still tends to be the most common interpretation. But perhaps what Jesus really meant was that the kingdom of God is all around us, rather than some distant personage floating far off in the clouds. God is with us here and now. We just need to open our eyes. God's presence manifests in many ways: as a friend who helps us to shoulder our burdens, a helpful stranger who happens along just when most needed, or perhaps someone who needs our help, giving us the opportunity to serve. Angels come in many forms. Sometimes angels may have fur, feathers, or scales, whatever God thinks will be most effective in a given situation. Sometimes they appear in the form of people whose faith and strength of spirit provide a powerful example of what it means to walk through life with God at our side. In the story Angels Among Us by Susan Flamer, we meet angels in many forms as we explore the concept of Christian hope. Lucy could stay in her basement apartment until she died, her friend Brother Ed assured me. The Chicago Housing Authority had condemned her building. Rats and cockroaches had taken the upper hand, and the absentee landlord hadn't put up a fight. Brother Ed told the building inspector that Lucy was the only one left there, but she didn't have long to live. Well, as long as she's out by May, it should be okay, the inspector reluctantly conceded. We didn't tell Lucy about the notice. A bulldozer would raise the 3-story brownstone from the deteriorated block. Lucy and Brother Ed, both in their 80s, were among the few who remained in the neighborhood of vacated residences. Brother Ed confided that his apartment building across the street had also been condemned, and he would need to move as soon as Lucy was gone. Those buildings had been home for Lucy, Ed, and their late spouses for more than 40 years. I was her visiting nurse during these last months of Lucy's life, and I saw her daily to provide injections for pain and assistance with other care. The cancer was spreading quickly. Brother Ed changed Lucy's pillowcase each day and helped me lift and turn her as I bathed her. He cared for the parakeet that chattered away in a cage near her bed. He carried her soiled linen 3 blocks to the laundromat on Mondays and Thursdays, and scrubbed her cracked linoleum floors daily, placing newspaper over the cracks that continually expelled gooey soot. This had been Lucy's routine, and he realized its importance. One morning, Lucy announced, "This is Good Friday. Do you know that, Nurse Sue?" She groaned as I carefully rolled her over to give her shot into the tiny bit of muscle left in their buttocks. "Yes, I know." Lucy's dark skin was a stark contrast to the bleached white sheets of her double bed in the center of her sparsely furnished yet immaculate living room. A white flannel gown, worn thin from frequent bleaching, hung loosely over her bony frame. Her balding head, usually covered with a bright-colored scarf, sunk deeply into the pillow and seldom moved. Despite the relentless pain inflicted by the cancer now in her bones, Lucy smiled nearly continuously. She frequently reminded me that her brilliant white teeth were her own. "I keep thinking about how much I'd like to be in my little church on Easter," she said. "Every year, I'd wear my best white dress, my fancy white hat, white polished shoes, white gloves, and George," that's my late husband, "and I would walk to church. It's my favorite day." I was on-call nurse for the Easter holiday weekend. Only those patients requiring daily visits would be seen. On Saturday, I saw 6 other patients before Brother Ed greeted me at Lucy's door. "She's been anxious to give you something," he said. I removed my coat, placed it over a chair, put down my nursing bag, and went directly to her bedside. Lucy omitted her usual perfunctory greetings. Instead, she reached out and grabbed my hand. "I only own 2 things that I have to make sure will get good care when I'm gone." Lucy used every bit of her energy to raise her head from the pillow. "One is my little parakeet, Tweety. Brother Ed is going to take care of him for the rest of his life. The other is wrapped in a terry cloth towel in the center drawer of my vanity in the bathroom. Please go and get that, Nurse Sue." She squeezed my hand, dropped it, and directed me toward the tiny bathroom behind a drape that separated it from the living room. I moved quickly, opened the vanity drawer, found and carried the weighty towel-wrapped item to Lucy. "Well, go on and open it. It's the most beautiful thing I ever owned. I want you to take it home with you." I unwrapped the towel to find an antique silver-plated hand mirror with beveled glass, its handle in the shape of an angel angel cherub. The silver was extremely tarnished, but the beauty of the object shone through. Let me tell you how I got that. Lucy spoke as if remembering. It was given to me by the lady I worked 30 years for in a fancy Lakeshore Drive apartment. She and her husband moved to California when he retired. Before they left, she told me I could have anything on her dressing table. There were all kinds of fancy silver things, bottles, mirrors, and boxes. Lucy stopped speaking for a few moments, and I knew she was gathering strength to go on. I chose that because of the angel. I told her it would help me think of heavenly things when days got hard. As Lucy talked, Brother Ed turned away from the bedside, walked toward the door, and blew his nose. Tweety chattered in his cage and repeatedly banged his little bell. I grasped the mirror and looked down into the reflection of my own tear-filled eyes. Now, don't give me any argument, Lucy said, because I know you aren't supposed to take gifts, but I need to know you will take this one, because it's so precious to me and I have no family. I rewrapped the mirror and placed the mirror next to my coat on the chair. In the bathroom, I filled a gray metal basin with water. When I returned to Lucy's bedside, I found her eyes closed and a slight smile across her lips. The room was quiet. Tweety perched silently in his cage. Lucy's hands were folded on her chest. I placed the basin on the bedside table, dried my hands on my uniform skirt, and gently covered her hands with mine. A few moments passed. Without opening her eyes, she whispered, "Thank you." At home that evening, I used polish to bring back the mirror's lovely shine, and the fine details of the cherub's form were revealed. The next morning, I returned to see Lucy. The air was crisp, the sun shone, a perfect day for Easter. Brother Ed answered the door and shook his head ominously as I asked about Lucy's condition. From across the tiny room, I could see how much she had weakened as she tried to raise her head to greet me. After removing my coat, I took the towel-wrapped mirror from my bag. At her bedside, I stood quietly until her eyes opened. As I deliberately unwrapped the towel to allow the bright silver to appear, Lucy's face transformed. From one practiced at stoically hiding pain with a forced smile, to one expressing genuine joy. "Now I have my Easter. Now I have my Easter," Lucy exclaimed. "You see, it's all about making old things new. That's what it's about. Just like this old mirror, we are made brand new. Lift me up so I can look at myself in that mirror." I slid my arm under her back, raising her up off the bed. Her body felt light and her backbones distinct against my arm. She peered eagerly into the mirror. "Now just look at those teeth. So bright. They're all mine." I lowered her gently back onto her pillow. Early the following day, I stepped off the bus at 63rd Street to find Brother Ed waiting for me. It was cold on that early April morning, and I could see his brimming eyes behind his steamy breath. He looked up at me and touched my sleeve. "Well, Nurse Sue, you don't need to be going down to our friend Lucy's today. I've already got Tweety Bird over at my place. Should you and I maybe go someplace and grab a cup of coffee?" "Just a closer walk with thee,